guys, welcome back. It's been quite a while since we've done a video, but first I wanted to thank my sister Karen. She got this apron for me, and this is the first video that I've actually worn the apron, so thank you Karen, appreciate it. Today we're going to talk about crock pots, slow cookers, crock pots, whatever you want to call them. I have several. I've got a 7-quart, I've got a 5-quart, I've got a 3-quart, and then I think I've got a little 1-quart for like dips and sauces and stuff. So a lot of people say they don't like crock pots because they don't want to turn them on and then go to work and leave them unattended for the day. I've been cooking in crock pots for 30 years, 40 years. My mother cooked in crock pots long before that. I've never had an issue with a crock pot. I love using them because it is wonderful just to throw everything in it in the morning and turn it on, and then when you get home from work, first of all, your house or apartment will smell incredible, and your meal's done and you don't have to come home from work and cook a big meal. So what we're going to do today, it is about 9:30 in the morning, and so I'm going to put all of this together in the crock pot, and then this evening we're going to finish the video when it's done. So what I'm going to make today is some pork chop stroganoff, and then as a side dish, you know, stroganoff, we're going to have the egg noodles obviously, and then as a side dish I'm going to roast some broccoli and cauliflower. So let's start over here with the ingredient. First of all, I have my crock pot. I've got it turned on low right now. I've got the liner in it, so it's ready to go. Here I have about a head of cauliflower, maybe a little less. Here I've got 1 bunch of broccoli that I've chopped up. I've got a pound of egg noodles back here. Over here I have 1 onion. Believe it or not, this is just 1 onion, but it was a really, really big onion. I do love onions, so we're gonna go with that. I've got about a ½ pound of mushrooms over here that I sliced up. I've got 1 can of cream of mushroom soup here, a ½ cup of water here, 4 bone-in pork chops back here, 2 tablespoons of butter here, and this right here is 1 package of dry pork gravy mix. That's what's in here. Okay guys, so the first thing we want to do is we want to get a good sear on our pork chops. So I'm going to put that 2 tablespoons of butter in a skillet, and then I'm going to let it get screaming hot, and then I'm going to sear those 4 pork chops real quick before I throw them in the crock pot. Alrighty guys, so the butter is melted, and what I want to do is I want to let this get screaming hot, so when I put the pork chops in, they'll sear really, really quickly. So just wait for a few minutes, let this get really hot. The butter will start to brown just a little bit, and that's when you want to throw the pork chops in. Okay guys, see up in this area where the butter has started to brown, that's what you want. You don't want to burn it, but you do want it to start browning. So now I'm just going to, that's what you want to hear. You want to hear that sizzle. Okay, so we're going to let these sit for probably about 2 minutes, and then we'll turn them and do another 2 minutes, and then we'll pop them in the crock pot. Okay guys, so these have been searing for about 2 minutes. So I'm going to turn them over, and I'm going to let them sear on the other side for 2 minutes, and then we will put them in the crock pot. One thing I wanted to mention, you don't want to salt or pepper your pork chops right now, because the package of pork gravy mix that we have, it has a lot of salt in it, and then the can of cream of mushroom soup also has quite a bit of salt in it, so you don't want to add more salt right now. Okay. So we have been searing for a couple minutes on the back side, and you're not really cooking these. You can see they're still pink in some places. So the object here is not to cook them. You just want to get a good searing on the edges so you put them in the crock pot. So you can see we've got a good sear here. We've got a good sear here. So these are going to get put in the crock pot. I'm just going to move them right over here. Okay guys, you'll see from time to time recipes say that you need to deglaze your skillet. And so what that means is down in here where the pork chops were, there is some pork chop bits and little pieces of pork chop down in here. And you want to be able to put that in the crock pot too, because it really adds some good flavor. So to deglaze it, all you want to do is just put a little bit of water. In this case it was a ½ cup. And you just want to kind of stir it around in there, make sure you get all of those bits of pork chop and that caramelized butter and everything. You want to get all that all mixed up in here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add this to the soup and the gravy mix. Okay guys, so I have my 1 can of cream of mushroom soup here, and I'm just going to pour my deglaze water in there with all those pork chop chips. And then we're going to put our pork gravy mix in there. And we're just going to kind of mix all this up. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put our mushrooms and our onions in the crock pot on top of the pork chops. We're going to pour this gravy mix on top of it, and then we're going to set it to cook for about 6 hours, okay? So here we've got our onions, and again, I mean, this was a really big onion. You can use a smaller onion depending on your taste. I really like onions, so that's why I used a really big onion. So we've got our onion there. Now we're going to put our mushrooms in there. Just throw them on top of the pork chops. And then all we're going to do is just pour our soup and deglaze mixture and that gravy mix that we whisked together. We're just going to pour all that on top. And then we're going to put the lid on this and let it cook on low for about 6 hours. See you in a bit. Alrighty guys, welcome back. It is now in the afternoon. My pork chops over here have been in the crock pot now for about 6 hours. And we're just going to look at that real quick. We've got our mushrooms that have cooked in there. We've got our onions. The pork chops are in there. So that's coming along just fine. What we now do is we are going to roast our broccoli and cauliflower, and we're going to boil our egg noodles back here. So I've already set the oven on 450 to roast the broccoli and cauliflower. It's preheating right now. And I've got the fire on under my water for my egg noodles. So that's going. So what we want to do is we just want to combine the broccoli and cauliflower. And then I've got about a ¼ cup of olive oil that I'm going to drizzle in there. And then I've got about a tablespoon of bread dip seasoning. You can just use salt and pepper, you can use garlic powder, you can use whatever seasoning you like. One of my favorite seasonings is this bread dip seasoning. So we're just going to kind of toss this around, get that olive oil coated on there, get the spices on there, My ring keeps hitting the side of the bowl. I normally take my ring off when I'm cooking with my hands like this, but... Okay, so everything is coated really well now with the olive oil. So we're going to just lay it out here on the baking dish. We're going to spread it out. And as soon as the oven is preheated to 450, we're going to pop that in for about 30 minutes. Okay guys, so what we're going to do now, while we're waiting for the egg noodle water to boil and the oven to preheat for the broccoli and cauliflower, we are going to take the 4 pork chops out of the crock pot because we want to mix in about a half a cup of sour cream, and you can't have pork chops in there if you're going to mix in the sour cream. That one kind of fell apart. That tells you how tender these things are going to be, which is good. There's the 4th one. So we're going to pull that 4th one out. And we're just going to let them sit here on the plate while we mix in our sour cream. So again, I've got about a half a cup of sour cream that I'm going to put in here. And we're going to mix it in. And after it's mixed in, then we're just going to put the pork chops back in there and let it stay warm until our broccoli and cauliflower and egg noodles are done. Okay, so the sour cream is all mixed in here. So now we're just going to drop these pork chops right back in there again and let them stay warm until everything else is done. Alrighty guys, so we've got our pork chops here in the crock pot. They're finishing up. We've got our egg noodles boiling over here on the stove. So they are finishing up. And then down here in the oven, we've got our broccoli and cauliflower that are roasting down there. So we got probably about 10-15 more minutes and everything will be ready to plate up. Alrighty guys, so everything is done. We are going to put out a couple pork chops. They are really tender, so they're kind of falling apart in the crock pot. But that's the way we like them. We'll just throw that bone away. Put this one over here. Oops. And then we're gonna take these out. And I'm taking these out because I want to put the egg noodles in here and mix them in with the gravy and the onions and the mushrooms before I serve them. So we have our egg noodles right here. I'm just going to dump them in there. And then we're going to kind of stir them up a little bit with all of the onions and mushrooms and that pork gravy, the sour cream, everything that we put in there. So there we have our noodles. So I'm going to put some noodles on the plate, some onions and mushrooms. And I know the pork chops didn't plate up all that well, all that pretty, but I would much rather have them break up like that and be incredibly tender than to be tough and not break up, but then they just present well. So here's our broccoli and cauliflower that I roasted. So we are going to spoon some of that over here as well. And I did the broccoli and cauliflower for about 20 minutes. I like mine with just a little bit of a crunch to it. So if you want yours softer, you can go up to 30 minutes or so with them. I just decided to stop it at 20 so I could have a little crunch. And so there you have it. We have some crock pot pork chops, stroganoff, and some roasted broccoli and cauliflower. Alrighty guys, I'm going to try this. Try just a little bite of it. So I got some onion, a little bit of mushroom, some pork chop. That's good. That's really good. So folks, thanks so much for watching the video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click like and comment and share, and we will see you next time right here. Thanks.